Lesson number 32. Today I'll be talking about an important endgame principle, speed calculation. Look at this example. How would you play here? Normally you would just push the pawn and you've won. Well, however, if you just started and kept pushing the pawn without thinking much about the consequences, that's not the right way of playing the endgame. In this initial diagram, you must already know at this point that you've won the game. Another example, what if this king was here? Well, you must be able to know at this point that you've lost the game and you should resign here. See, you've lost. To do that, you have to learn what we call speed calculation. Speed calculation is all about counting the moves that are needed to mate the king. But the way you count them is different from the way you count the mating moves in a mate problem, of course. You count the moves supposing that your opponent doesn't make plays to react to your attack. So in this case, the number of moves is 1, 2, and 3. Checkmate. So it's 3 moves to mate. So you don't count these moves as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because the opponent is always reacting to your moves. So they don't need to be counted. And sometimes we refer to them as one initiative move. Thus it's 1, 2, and 3 initiative moves to mate. If he moves the king here, you don't have to count these moves. So it's still 1, 2, 3 moves to mate. It might sound a little complicated, but I hope you understand what I mean. So, why don't we say this king is in 3 initiatives to mate. Santesuki in Japanese. So, this king is in 2 initiatives to mate. And this is 1 initiative to mate. As you might have already noticed, 1 initiative to mate is equivalent to a threat mate. And 2 initiatives to mate means a position where you threat a threat mate in your next move. So it's a threat mate. And 3 initiatives mate is equivalent to threat mate. So in this example, your opponent's king is in 3 initiatives to mate. And your king is also in 3 initiatives to mate. And it's your turn to play, so you're winning. And in the second example, his king is in 4 initiatives to mate, while your king is in 3, so you're losing, even when it's your turn to play. It's simple, isn't it? Another example. Are you winning or losing here? Well, his king is 3 initiatives to mate, and your king is in 3 too. So, yeah, you're winning. Your king is not in threat mate yet, so threat mate. You won. Now, we go to this most important principle. Is this proverb in the endgame? Gain speed rather than material. It means speed is more important than material profit in the endgame. So this is the example. Suppose your opponent is attacking your rook. If you're only concerned about material profit, you might want to let it run away. But wait. Do the speed calculation first. Your king is 2 initiatives to mate, and the opponent's king is in 2. So, yeah, you should play this. You've won. And if you move the rook, now your king is in a threat mate, while his king is still in 2. So you've lost. Oh, by the way, sometimes we have to be more careful when you do the speed calculation. What if they're both one step behind? Can you win by the same move? Because you think now they're both 3 initiatives to mate? Well, you can't. Because your king is actually still in 2 initiatives to mate. Because after the rook is taken, your king is mated, right? Even if you had a pawn to block, it's a mate. Alright, another example of gain speed rather than material. Now, in this example, your silver is severely attacked. You might want to let the silver run, but it will just allow your opponent to gain more speed. So, you should attack. You lose your silver, yeah, but you discard the bishop and even the rook too. And brinkmate. And your king is not in a threat mate. Well, you lose another gold too. But see, he can't mate it. So you won. And you see, in this case, this king is impossible to mate, no matter how many pieces he has in hand. I mean, even by thousands of pieces. And sometimes we call this ze. It's a strange word, but it's because ze is the first letter of this phrase, zettai tsumanai, which means absolutely unmateable. And we also call it by the alphabet, Z, because it sounds similar to Z. And if your king is in a Z, all you have to do is thinking about just giving a brinkmate to the opponent's king, not caring at all about your king, nor about how many pieces you give to him. Well, if this gold was a silver, it's not a Z at all. It can be easily mated. Now, do you think this is a Z? Well, no. If he has enough pieces, it'll be mated. See? But for example, if he had no knights, it's absolutely unmateable, right? So sometimes we call that kind of situation a knight Z. So you should think about keep giving threat mates to the opponent without giving him a knight. Another example, sometimes we call it a diagonal Z. If your opponent has a silver or a bishop, it can be easily mated. But if he has no silver and no bishop, it's a Z. So it depends on what piece he has in hand. Here, if he has a gold and a silver, it's a simple mate. But he can't mate it by only 4 golds and 2 rooks, nor by silvers and bishops. Alright, that's all for this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll go into more advanced matters concerning the endgame principles. See you next time.